Hello everyone. Here at Lansing Catholic, we recently had a retreat day for all of the 7th graders from our partner schools. During the retreat day, 2 of our seniors gave talks for the students. So in this episode, you'll hear from Kaitlin Ludwig and the talk that she gave. Have a listen.
Hi guys! I'm really excited that everyone's here. But yeah, my name is Kaitlin Ludwig. I'm a senior. And I went to St. Thomas when I was in middle school, elementary school. Shout out to the Tartans. Yeah. And I want to start by telling you a story about when I was in 7th grade at St. Thomas. So I played basketball probably starting in like 2nd or 3rd grade, maybe even 1st grade, I don't know. But 7th grade was my favorite year of basketball, and also my last year of playing basketball, which is kind of sad, but we'll get to that. And the coach I had this year was a college student at MSU, so he was kind of just fun. And halfway through the season, he started the first 20 minutes of every practice with us just shooting half-court shots. And I was like, what the heck? This is not going to help me be a better basketball player because I can't even make a half-court shot. But we just would practice. And he also challenged us that if we got one, he would buy us a slushie. So that was the motivation. But pretty much what I ended up doing for these practices was just practicing over and over. And as I went, I learned that if I wanted to make the shot, I had to have faith in myself that I could do it. And I had to go all out and just chuck it and hope it would go in. And I only got it once in 7th grade, but since then I've made it 3 times this year in the past month, I think, just playing lightning in one of my classes. So, all is that to say that having faith is important if you want to do anything. If I had been I'm never going to make it, then I would never have made it. But what I'm going to be talking about today is having faith in Jesus and why you should even have faith in Jesus in the first place. So, what is faith in the first place? Faith is saying, yes, I believe in something, in this case, in Jesus, even if I don't understand it completely. And the opposite of faith would be doubt, which is saying, no, I don't believe. And we don't usually admit this, but it's because we don't understand it fully when we doubt something. So I actually want to tell another story that happened right after my basketball season in 7th grade. And it was a time when I had a crisis of faith because, well, actually, just to straight up say it, right after my season ended, in 7th grade, my basketball season ended, the world went into a pandemic, and we all lived through COVID. But in that time, I felt very out of control and just confused because I didn't know what was happening, and it felt like God was very distant. It felt like he had abandoned the world, and we were just left to survive when we didn't even know how to go about fixing this huge crisis of health that had come about. So in this time of feeling like the world was out of control, I decided that I could be in control, and at least that would bring me some peace. And actually what happened was, over that summer after my 7th grade year, I developed an eating disorder because I had decided that I could control my body, I could control what I eat, and that would bring me security. It did not bring me security. It only brought me complete sadness and being lost and feeling abandoned by God even more. And you could say that I was kind of lost in a storm of my emotions, the lies that I was believing about myself. And my faith in God was very much Lord, why are you letting this happen to me? I believe in you, but it's really hard to believe in you right now when I don't understand. And there was this one day, so going into 8th grade, I started going through recovery, started seeing counseling and stuff like that. But it was really hard, and I wasn't really getting better. There was this one time I woke up, it was a Saturday morning, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was so just lost in despair. And I remember just crying and pleading with Jesus to save me, saying, Jesus, save me. But in that moment, I felt completely abandoned and afraid. It didn't feel like he was there. But in that moment, because I chose to have faith in the Lord, like even though I didn't understand why the world was in a pandemic, why I was having this eating disorder, and why I was so lost and confused, the Lord used my faith in even though it was very much like a, God, I don't understand, but I still choose to believe, and he saved me. And it wasn't me who got me out of that place. It was only him. And looking back, I can now point to that as like the Lord redeemed me from that. And it's miraculous. Only Jesus can save us from the storms of our life. Now, I want to tell another story. This is from the Gospel of Mark. And actually, I'll just read it from this piece of paper because it's the same thing. But this is a story when Jesus was with his disciples, and they were going on a trip. So it reads in Mark 4. On that day, when evening came, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." And leaving the crowd, he took him with them. They took him with them in the boat, just as he was. And other boats were with him. And a great storm of wind arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But Jesus was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care if we drown?" And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Where is your faith?" And they were filled with awe, and they said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" So the reason I read that story is because it's a story about faith. And the disciples were in a storm, much like the storm I was in. Theirs was more physical, but they were out of control. And they got to a point when they realized this storm that they were facing that was going to drown them was impossible for them to fix on their own. And so they cried out, "Lord, save us." Or they didn't even phrase it that way. They were just like, "Jesus, do you care if we die?" And Jesus, seeing them, seeing how they felt abandoned and afraid, doesn't condemn them for not believing fully that he has control over the storm. He wakes up and he rebukes the wind and the waves, and there's calm. Just from a word of his mouth, he saves them. And then he asks them, "Where is your faith?" And so that's my question for you today. Where is your faith? Because if we put our faith in ourselves, like I did back during COVID, if I tried to control the world on my own, I realized that I fail. And that's not to be like discouraging. It's meant to be like, we have the answer. We have Jesus, who is our Savior and who has control over the universe because he is the creator. And that gives us the freedom to say, "Yes, Lord, I believe in you, even though I don't understand." And that's faith. So, all is that to say, Jesus is worth it. He's worth your faith, even when you don't understand. And I would encourage all of you, if you have a storm in your life, whatever it looks like, it can be big or small, try to recognize Jesus in the storm, because he's there, even if it seems like he's asleep. Just ask him to save you, and he'll wake up, and one word from his mouth will silence the waves. That's all I have for you.